everybody. Welcome to In the Air on CricTracker with me, Navedna Prabhu. I have some very upsetting news. The first test match has resulted in a draw thanks to the villain that we always keep referring to, the weather, England weather, as unpredictable as it can get. Lekin, even to, look at the kind of first match in terms of, like, let's say top performers, what are the mistakes, what are the kind of analysis our experts can do, and what can they look forward to in the second test match at Lord's. All that exciting stuff coming up on today's show. But if you have any questions to ask Rakesh and Pratyay, who will be joining us very shortly, do put that in the comment section. I'm going to be taking it. लेकिन अगर आप भी उतना ही disappointed हो, वो भी हमारे साथ share कीजिए. और अगर आपको कोई भी pointers बताना हो from the first test match, please put it in the comment section, and we'll also be taking questions. So very excited to be looking forward to that. On that note, let's call on our first expert, our first guest on the show, Rakesh Deva Reddy, who is a cricket coach as well as cricket analyst. Hi, Rakesh. Not a very great start to be having this conversation, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. You can't do anything when the rain interrupts, and that too, it's been raining the whole day. India must have been excited, thinking that okay, we can just chase it down and win the first test match and start the series on a good note. On the other hand, England might have also thought that okay, we can get a breakthrough, taking 2 or 3 quick wickets and putting India under pressure, and then taking the wickets by the end of the day. But both the plans didn't work out. But Rain's plan work out, and it wanted it to be a draw, and we are witnessing a draw. But it was a very good test match. Day 4 was really, we saw on day 4 that okay, England was also in contention of winning the test match. Otherwise, before end of the day 3, it was completely in India's hand. But day 4 made the match more interesting, but day 5 made it very, very disappointing.
Right. I really like this comment that's come from Abhi Raja saying, call rain as a new guest. Yeah, well, the rain factor is always on our show, especially in terms of English conditions. But like Rakesh said, what is so much more disappointing is to see that competition get so much more better, and everybody wanted to look forward to it. And then this happened. And we still have 4 more test matches to go. So we don't know what's going to happen in terms of the weather. But in terms of everybody talking about a lost chance is what Subramaniam says. Indeed, for both the teams to also be playing so much, and we'll be talking about a lot of other aspects as well. For that, let's call on our second guest, Pratyay Tiwari, who's a content creator, joining us back once again on the show. Pratyay, great to have you back. And again, not a great note to be, starting this analysis with, but how do you view this?
What a terrible shame. India would have definitely fancied their chances. I'm smiling, but I'm thoroughly irritated. It was that kind of a day. Not even a single ball. At least if we could have had maybe a couple of hours of cricket, seeing India maybe trying to chase down, maybe a punt coming up the order, something of that sort. Still could have happened something for the fans. But the England weather, you can crib and cry and you can do whatever you want to, but no one has really a control over the weather. And I think that over the next 1.5 months, we will, I hope that we see lesser of this. But I don't think that weather is a word that we will not be hearing again on this show or anywhere in that, for that matter, as far as this particular series is concerned. So a massive shame, but that's all that you can do. No one can control.
Right. But, let's take a quick look at also in terms of the scorecard so that I could get both Rakesh and Pratyay's viewpoints about it. Lekin before I even get them to be talking about this, agar aap sabko, whoever has tuned in, agar aapko koi pointers hai to be just discussing about the first test match, please send that in. We would like to take your perspective and analysis as well. And of course, our experts will also be talking about that. Let me get your quick thoughts on it, Rakesh, in terms of course, one of the top performers being Joe Root for England. Bumrah, of course, also having that wonderful, performance that he had. And of course, we can also talk about KL Rahul in the first session. So if you were to summarize it that way, any other names that you would like to say? Of course, Anderson being, the fast-paced bowler that he's known to be. But in terms of any kind of performances that were missed out that we haven't spoken about in the first test match.
I think we did speak about all the aspects, like the top order performing, the bowlers performing. But the important thing in terms of India is the lower order performing and scoring that crucial runs in the first innings. That made the test match very, very interesting. Otherwise, even if the day 5 was happening, if day 5 was happening, then it would have been a little more interesting if Indian, I won't say it as an interesting thing, but the situations would have been different because the lower order, the tailenders have scored for India. That is a good sign for the next 4 test matches. Ravi Shastri and Virat Kohli can somehow rely on these guys saying that okay, we have tailenders who can score the runs as well. I think that is the most
Yeah.
important thing other than the players performing. Just that about yeah, I think all the other things we have been talking about all those things except this thing. Even this thing we
You
discussed,
know,
but this is the highlight I would say.
right, highlight. In terms of course, some performances that didn't go down too well. I'll come back to Rakesh about that. But Pratay, would you like to add in terms of top performers you thought somebody else that really impressed you?
Well, definitely. Joe Root, you have to talk about him coming after, he started the year magnificently, getting a double century against India in India. Before that, he had a brilliant tour of a couple of test matches in Sri Lanka that England went on to win. But suddenly you
Yeah.
realize that he was not amongst the runs, and the entire England India series later on, after that double century in Chennai, did not go that well for him. So coming back here into the home conditions and then getting a half century, it was a crucial one even in the first innings. And when you look at the century in the perspective of the game, that I think was the reason because of which England actually managed to stay in. Because after 90
Yeah.
95 runs of lead that India managed, if had it not been for Root's century, because he played the anchor role beautifully, holding one end up, and it was very clear for the Indian bowlers that if you are looking for wickets, there is only one end available for you because Joe Root's end was completely blocked. And that century is something that if Virat Kohli scores run, India is happy. This particular century will make England, the entire team, and the entire country happy because your captain scoring runs leading from the front is absolutely something that gives you a lot of confidence. Apart from that, yes, we have to talk about Jimmy Anderson. A massive feat for him. This is a memorable test match, not in terms of the result, of course, but surpassing Anil Kumble and managing to break into that top three in the test history. That's again a massive achievement. And for India, I think that Jasprit Bumrah and KL Rahul were definitely the top ones. Worries would be, of course, around KL Rahul, beg your pardon, Virat Kohli and Ajinkya Rahane and Cheteshwar Pujara. But two positive takeaways from this game for India for me would be the way KL Rahul batted in the first innings. Coming back after
Yeah.
a couple of years, it is never easy doing that in this kind of a side that India is. And Jasprit Bumrah, of course, 9 wicket haul. He has already nine in just one test match, 4 matches to go, and he might as well end up as the top wicket taker if he continues this good vein of form. So that is it.
Talking about top, performers, no surprises for guessing that Joe Root has been named player of the match. Rakesh, I'll come to you. What is it as a cricket coach, as an analyst, you really like about his, batting style? The captaincy is, of course, something that we've discussed yesterday. But if you could take us through his, style of batting, certain techniques, if you could point it out for all our viewers and, for us as well.
So he has a very good technique and a very orthodox kind of player. He doesn't really play too many what do you call too many different kinds of shots. He just rely on the textbook shots. Generally, he is a player who tends to play and who likes to play on the back foot. But on an occasion, if it is required and if the situations are demanding, he can play on the front foot as well. The best example
Right.
is the way he has played in the second innings, trying to play everything in front of the wicket. But the first innings, if you compare most of the runs, he has scored, towards the squarer of the wickets on both the sides. But in the second innings, he scored in front. So if you are a batsman who can score in front of the wicket, if you're very good, very strong on square of the wicket, if you're very strong playing cross batted shots, then absolutely you're a very good batsman. So the important thing and the best thing what I liked in Joe Root's batting in both the innings are trying to mold according to the situation and trying to be aggressive if it is required, and trying to just pace up the innings or trying to anchor the innings, because in the first innings he was trying to stick on there and score the runs, and in the second innings it was required to be a little bit aggressive, take that aggressive approach, because
Yeah.
England was in a different situation. If they were trying to be more defensive, I think England would have lost the wickets very early, and England might not have scored whatever they have scored in the second innings. So the important thing is trying to adopt, as a batsman, trying to adopt according to the situation is very important. And as a batsman, if you are very good in front of the wicket and square of the wicket, then you can absolutely score runs on any ground, any situation. Doesn't matter who the bowler is bowling. So this is more about what I talked just now is more towards the mental aspect of the game. And in terms of technique, the best thing when Joe Root was driving the ball towards the off stump was trying to wait and play the ball close to the body, moving his feet nicely towards the pitch of the ball, and just keeping that bat swing, downswing. This is a very, very important thing when you're playing. You have to make sure that you are keeping your bat swing, downswing when you are playing balls on the ground. And the top hand elbow is very important. If you can keep your elbow high, then automatically your bat swing comes down, and the back lift, obviously that's a basic thing every coach will teach for any player. When you're playing, you need to have a good backlift. So normally what usually people in olden days used to do is they used to keep their bat slightly down, but in the modern day, if you look at all the batsmen, they are holding the bat very high, so they are already with their already ready with their backlift, which is the reason why we see a lot of big hits in the modern day. So those are
Right.
few things whoever is watching they can observe when any other player plays in the next game. So the most important thing as a player who is looking, I mean, for any youngsters who are watching this show, to improve themselves is the most important thing is try to know the things and try to observe the things when you're watching any player or your favorite player or anybody batting, so that they can relate it and they can pick what can work for that particular player. Because not every player has same technique, every player is very very different, every player has their own way of scoring runs, own way of setting up. So trying to
Right.
observe that will help, which can suit for that particular player. So these are all the things which all the players who are watching can learn by just
Definitely
watching.
learn. Right. Yeah. So I hope all of you, I found it quite interesting. So thank you, Rakesh, for that. And I hope everybody who's tuned in right now as well has taken some, valuable pointers. But again, on that note, for the ones who have missed this out, if you want to reach out to Rakesh, because obviously he's a cricket coach as well. And if you're looking for guidance, do reach out to him on Facebook as well as Instagram. His full name is Rakesh Deva Reddy. In terms of course, a lot of comments coming that the match was towards India's side, but luck favored England. Everyone is pretty much saying the same thing, that the rain kind of saved England, which is quite contrary to Michael Vaughan, because he was saying that the rain was saving India. So, obviously everybody's made their choices. But there's one comment coming in from Satyam Singh who says, always feel good to see match in England. Bowl swings for batsmen is not easy. But one thing always is quite frustrating is, of course, the rain after the WTC final, and things like that. And how do you think that the final will be held in any other country? If you're referring to the World Test Championship final happening in 2023, I don't know, Pratya, would you like to take, a prediction on that?
Well, it's hard to, because there has not been any official word, so we will have to wait where it is.
Wait.
But yes, given the way things have panned out in England, and historically this has been the situation in England, that whenever you go, there's always a chance of rain. So I think that these big billing tournaments, where there's a lot on stake, you don't want them to be in England, because I mean, what are the takeaways? This was such a brilliant match, 4 days of some good cricket, and you would expect it. Perhaps it even went into the fifth day only because of the amount of game we lost in the previous couple of days. Maybe it could have even ended by the end of day four otherwise. But then not getting out a result, because see, more often than not now, the focus of cricket is to have results, is to have
Yeah.
not have boring or dull kind of draws. And if rain does that, it's all the more worse. If it's an interesting draw where a couple of wickets are down and you are just blocking it out, saving it, and you're having nerves, you're enjoying the match, and anything could happen. There are so many, there's a lot of adrenaline rush. That is exciting. But when you see nothing, not even a single ball, consistently you see players getting out,
I think there seems to be some technical issue. We will come back to Pratya to be talking about it. But I actually want to talk to you, Rakesh, about a statement. I mean, how can Michael Vaughan not talk when, England and India are playing each other? Like, there is no way, but he's such a, let's say, as candid as he can get with some of his observations that he makes. Now, whether it's right or wrong is debatable. I want to ask you about two things. One being that he was talking about that Zach Crawley should, not be playing in the test. And the one change that you would like to see is Hasib Hamid come in his place at number 3. Do you think that's a smart move?
Maybe because England is facing the problem with the top three batsmen as usual from the last two or maybe two series, I guess, if I'm not wrong. So they will definitely look into that. The reason why they have included Hamid is the same reason, I guess. They were just trying to give the chance. If that doesn't really work out, then get him back, because he's been performing well in the county cricket, and he has performed well against India in the practice match as well. So I think that is the reason. And when he debuted, when he debuted and when he played his first Test match, I think he was very very young. He was not matured enough. He was not ready for the international standard
Big
games, I would
stage.
say, at that time. Yeah,
Yeah.
even many of he was very good, very sound with his technique. He was able to score runs as well, but he was not ready actually. But I think right now he looks very, very matured. Even his body language has also changed. He has grown up. The muscle has grown up, so he'll have that extra confidence because as the age is going up, you obviously get matured and your thought process will be more settled. uh, or maybe at 16, 17 years old, it will be more of a childish kind of nature. So
Right.
I think he will be very, very mature now. If he gets a chance and if he scores runs, then England will be very, very happy side.
Yeah, because I think he also spoke in the context of the Ashes coming up. So what he was trying to say is basically, probably he should get some rest, and then England should be utilizing him for Ashes at the end of the year. How do you view that?
See, even this series is as important as Ashes because
Ashes.
any side in the world right now would love to play against India, and they take it as a challenge. In the winning a series, it may be white ball or it may be a red ball. Winning against India is a prestigious thing right now. I mean, it's a big word to use, prestigious thing, but the way how India is playing, but the way how India is producing the players. The best example was India sent. I won't say second team. India sent a team to Sri Lanka where all the main players were in England. So obviously there's a big market in India as well in terms of everything, not just market. Even I mean, every player would be loving to perform against India because of the IPL. Where if you perform against IPL, because when India plays, that's the time where more viewership will be there and people will be watching as well. So obviously, everybody will take this series against India in the serious way, and they would love to win and they would love to show their skills against India. So I think England will take the this series also as important as Ashes, but they'll definitely
Ashes.
try to check how Hamid plays, and if he really plays well, yes, obviously they'll have an uh, extra player who can also perform. They'll have an extra option in terms of the
Right.
top order because after Alistair Cook has retired, England is still trying to figure out the opening pair.
Pranay, I'll come to you about that. Two names from, one name from both the sides who you thought did not perform, up to the mark, or rather disappointing performances. Who would you go with?
Well, I hate to say that, but Virat Kohli was someone who was being looked at. He did not get a chance to bat, and in the first inning, he just got out on a first ball on a golden duck. So I think that we all want cricket fans, not just as Indian fans. Everyone wants that he scores runs, and
Yeah.
it would be very important going forward in this particular series that he if he could fire, because in the Australian tour he was not a part of it. He had to leave midway. Now this is one of the more important and crucial tours, away tours. So I think that it would be great for him to get amongst the runs. And I think that if you were talking about, I lost in the middle. If you were talking about Haseeb Hamid, I think that if he is someone who can come in, because of the kind of inconsistencies we have been seeing in the England top order. Rory Burns got a century recently, but Dom Sibley and Zach Crawley have been two people who have not been able to score the kind of runs. I mean, Zach Crawley got a double century, 267. Ever since then, his form has declined really bad. So I think that and England management has backed him. It has not been a situation that he has not been given those chances or has been dropped. He has been consistently been into the team. He has been persisted with, but still not being able to get those runs is something that would be playing on his mind. So I think
Right.
that if you see from this perspective, this match was a match where the bowlers would be leaving happy because all of them got wickets. There was some spinners, of course, were not there, but the pacers were happy and they were able to manage wickets. Batsmen would not probably leave as happy if you are not KL Rahul or Joe Root. I think all the batsmen would have a few things to kind of note down and then try to rectify when they meet again in Lords.
And in terms of Lords, any changes that you would want to see in the playing 11 of India?
Playing 11, I think that India might as well stick with the same one. I think if Mayank Agarwal, I've been hearing that he is available, so I think that if India management might be tempted a bit to uh, go with the initial plan. But now it is a bit tough because the best performer of your side has been in this game KL Rahul, and who walked in as a replacement at the top of the order in place of Mayank Agarwal. So it actually makes it a bit tricky. We will have to wait and see. And for England, I guess again, Lords is one of the most pace-friendly stadiums and venues if you talk about England. So I think that I might not be surprised again if England goes on to not play even a single spinner. But for India, I think it has actually become a lot more tricky, because if KL Rahul would not have performed in this game, then Mayank Agarwal would have come in very easily. But now, what do you can definitely not make Rahul sit out. So all that you can
Yeah.
maybe do is that send him back in the middle order and bring in KL Rahul, bring in Mayank Agarwal rather at the top of the order. But they will have to work around those combinations, and will have to see. I don't think that any of the sides would be making any wholesale changes. So I think more or
Yeah.
less the combination that both these teams have won in this particular game is what we will be seeing even in the next one.
Right. For everybody who's just joined in, this match has resulted in a draw. Player of the match is Joe Root. So, for if you have any questions, because I see a lot of you commenting and giving your views in terms of what is happening. So that is the latest update. Rakesh, I want to come to you about in terms of, we've discussed everything to do with this particular test match and what's going to come later. There's a particular comment since we're talking about test match, and we also discussed a little bit about the Ashes, that Michael Clark commented saying that England will not have a chance to win the Ashes this year because Jofra Archer, their trump card, is not there. Trump card is not there. How do you look at that? Do you kind of agree with that statement?
I
And
really
Ben
don't
Stokes as
agree.
well. So
Yeah, I really don't agree with that because yes, to an extent, England will be losing the services of both of those great players, Ben Stokes, who will bat, ball, field, everything he can do, and Jofra Archer, who can trouble with his pace. But
yeah,
England is still trying to find out the replacement kind of thing for those guys, both of them. But I don't think really England. I mean, I can't just say that England won't win or England won't have chances. England will is doing well. I mean, they're not doing that bad. Anderson will be playing, so Brad will be playing, Chris Wokes will be. Mark Wood is available. Sam Curran is playing. Yes, Sam Curran didn't. I mean, his the bowling skills didn't really work out in the first test. But before the Ashes, they're going to play these 4 test matches, and they'll get a clear picture who can they put as a proper playing 11 playing against Australia. And whereas in
yeah,
terms of Australia, also they are also having that problems, but Australian bowling lineup looks good. Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, and all these guys are even Mitchell Stark for that matter. I think both the
yeah,
teams. I mean, Australian side is not the Australian side which we used to see them maybe 4 5 years ago, if I'm not wrong. Because at that point of time, Australians wherever they go, they were just dominating. And to be more precise, when Ricky Ponting, Adam Gilchrist, all these guys were there, Australia was
yeah,
completely dominating wherever they go. But right now, Australia's situation is not like that, and Australia's performance is also not like that. Whereas if you compare England or Australia, maybe Australia might have a little bit extra chances, but we can't completely say okay, Australia is going to just trash England by 5-0 something like that. England will also
yeah.
have chances. England is playing well when we compare both the teams, but maybe that slight advantage might be there towards Australia. But
Right.
Ashes, like you just asked a question previously, they'll take it very, very seriously because we all know the whole cricketing world knows how England and Australia take this Oscar. How
Yeah,
serious
and we're all
it's
and we're
yeah.
all looking forward to Michael Vaughan, of course, sending all of us in a frenzy on social media. Satya Narayana has made a comment which is pretty much a dig, of course, at Kohli, that he's lucky to have avoided the second time golden duck in this match. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because Pratyay and Rakesh both, I would want your inputs on this. In that particular interview that he gave Dinesh Karthik, he was talking about how at one point out of that 2014 phase of his, he was visualizing, in terms of, he believes in visualization. People don't actually understand that concept, but he basically feels like he's got that 50, he's got that 100. So if he's been practicing that since years, we've spoken about the fact that what went wrong for him in the first test match, but mentally you think he's going to be coming back a little more stronger in the next couple of matches. How would you view that, Pratyay? I'll come to you first.
See, I think, of course, he is a champion cricketer. I mean, the amount of runs that he has scored across all the formats, there is
Yeah,
no doubting his caliber. Yes, see, of course, when you see all the players at international level, there is going to come a time when you might not have things going your way, where you might come across a little bit of a slump in your form. But talking about the mental aspects of the game, Rakesh, as a coach, I guess he would agree that cricket is as much a mental game as it is a physical, and it's a fitness sport. Because a lot of
yeah,
times when you see the players visualizing again what he said, they try to keep themselves mentally as fit as possible. Because if you lose the mental battles, it would be very hard for you to win on the ground. So I think that it is something that Virat Kohli has proven over the years, and had it not been for that mental rigidity of his or that strength that he possesses, I don't think that he would have been able to achieve whatever he has. I mean, closing in on 23,000 international runs and the amount of runs he has got in Test cricket or in ODIs or in T20Is, you just look at those numbers; they're just phenomenal. And I don't think that anyone who is mentally weak can take all that what he has taken and still manage to get all that he has done, because in India you always have all the more burden of the expectations. If you are a Virat Kohli, you are leading the side, you're the captain. There's always performance pressure. There's, I mean, one single loss is enough for you to be bashed left, right, and center. So of course his mental game has been strong, and which is the reason that he has been able to survive. As far as this comment of him getting out for a duck or not is concerned, see, you can really not predict these kind of things. It happened. It's a game of cricket. You will
Right.
go out. Yes, he would be disappointed. So are we, as his fans. So are we, that we want him to see him scoring runs and winning matches for India, of course. But I think that you can really not predict what he would be able to do. So it's better to be patient. It's a long series, and no one is running anywhere away. We are going to come back as well to do all the analysis, so we can see what he is going to do. So let's be patient and let's not try to rush too forward.
Rakesh, in terms of the prediction for this series, if we were to go with a number, yes, very unpredictable. But if you still see whose hand is the series, complete series going in, whose hand is it going in
I
according to you?
I would don't want to predict it in terms of numbers, but I would still say yes, India will have the upper hand because of the way how things have gone. Players are performing well.
Yeah.
It's just that yeah, senior pros Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane didn't perform in the first innings, but the second Test match it's going to be in Lords. I think Ajinkya Rahane had a century in Lords, if I'm not wrong, and India is not having a good record, but still, records really doesn't matter when you're playing in the current situation. India will definitely do better going forward in the series. Right now,
Yeah.
we have just that first test has finished. I think everybody will be now focusing more on the second test than the whole entire series. India will be looking forward to put a good show in the second test match and at least win that second test match, because India was having better chances in the first test match to win than England.
Right. So I think everybody's thought in the head is बस result लेके आ जाओ, कोई भी जीते कोई भी हारे, बस result लेके आ जाओ is probably the thought in everybody's head. And Shrikant says first wedding of the decade. Well, that's a long debate for another day in terms of England being the host. But I also want to quickly take this opportunity to congratulate in terms, because we're obviously speaking of cricket, but also a great time to be congratulating all those sports person who have done an amazing job of representing our country in the Olympics, have done such a fabulous job. So we at CricTracker would also like to take this opportunity, for not only in terms of the fact that they won these medals, it's because the fact that we also have a cricket coach here, probably he can talk to us a little bit, like a minute or two, in terms of what it really takes for athletes, in their mind, to be representing the country on such a big platform. Because we always talk about pressure, like even Pratyay said, in India, of course, the expectations are a lot more. You lose one match, or you don't perform very well. We've seen in the past as well, they're written off. We've seen riots. We've seen all sorts of extreme reactions. But quickly, before we wrap up, Rakesh, if I could get your thoughts of it as a coach, when we've seen the magic that our amazing sportspersons have done in Tokyo Olympics 2020, how would you like to wrap up on that note?
See, I mean, it's a great thing been done by all the athletes who are participating in the Olympics. I think 100 and close to 120 athletes participated in from India in Olympics, and they got 6 medals. Yes, the number looks less, but the important thing is, if you look at the previous Olympics and the previous Olympics, not many people were aware of how many people were going to Olympics. What are the categories Indian players are participating in the Olympics? But if you look at
Yeah.
this Olympics, very everybody, mostly everybody is knowing how many players are participating, what are the categories they are participating, which round they have got into, how many of them got into semi-finals, when was the last time Indian hockey team has won a medal in Olympics. So the awareness has becoming better compared to the previous Olympics. So that shows
Yeah.
that not just cricket, everybody is also showing very much interest in different sports as well. So that's a very very good sign, because India has a population of 130 plus crores, where we can produce many great athletes and
More.
win more medals as well. Just that we were
Right.
missing that awareness, maybe infrastructure wise, and giving that opportunities and all those things. But from last 3 4 years, I think it is getting better
That
and
has
better.
been
Yes, there are people who will always say that okay, India have just won 6 medals. Why are you celebrating so much? The important thing is there's always first step to get better and better. So why don't we take
right.
that thing as this is the first step that India is
Stepping
doing
stone
well?
to success.
Yeah.
Yeah, the also reason that I
Then
asked you one of that is because obviously BCCI as well as CSK have rewarded the athletes for their amazing performance. So good to see that it's not just about which sport and which federation is actually supporting them, because any sport at the end of the day. And I really like Virendra Sehwag's tweet because he spoke about the fact that when he saw Neeraj actually win for the first time, he said cricket cricket gaya tel lene, which meant that it meant so much, right? Like, I mean, even for a cricketer to come out and really say that, because that's the kind of emotion, of course, sports persons, I guess sporting in general brings amongst all of us. And on that very note, I would like to thank all of you for joining us. Not the kind of result we would have all wanted, but we still have a long way to go in terms of the other test match series. So do join us, because we're going to have our experts back with us on the show. Alias, I do see your comment about England winning the series 3-0. वो होएगा या नहीं वो हम देखेंगे, for the rest of the show. So do join us and give us your predictions when we come back. But thank you, Pratay, and thank you, Rakesh, for joining us. And for all of you out there, stay safe, take care, and of course, stay tuned to CricTracker for the latest news in the world of cricket. We will see you very soon.